Verse 150 of Surah Al-An'am speaks of a very interesting incident that used to happen during the time of the Prophet. That incident is this. During the time of the Prophet, there were scholars from the Jewish faith, from the Christian faith, and some of them were corrupt scholars. And because of that, they would do two things. Number one was that depending on whether they were getting paid or whether it was to their benefit, they would take things that are haram in their religion, that were forbidden in their faith, clearly forbidden in their faith, and they would declare it to be permissible, depending on, the benefits and their interests. This is number one, and obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a problem with this. The second one is the one I want to draw your attention to, and that is that they also used to take things that were halal, that were permissible, and then they would flip it over and they would consider those things to be haram and forbidden. And interestingly, in the verses of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reacts in the same harsh manner that He did to those times where they would take something that is haram and turn it halal. He reacts the same way when they take something halal and they call it forbidden and haram. And this is interesting. The first one is, expected. The second one is one that is very interesting from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it teaches us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also, the same way He doesn't want us to take something haram, turn it halal, He also doesn't want to take us to take those things that God has allowed for His servants to make them forbidden. So the verse of the Quran says, قُلْ هَلُمَّ شُهَدَاءُكُمُ الَّذِينَ يَشْهَدُونَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَ هَذَا. Go and tell them to bring forth the witnesses that are saying this is forbidden for the servants of God. فَإِن شَهِدُوا فَلَا تَشْهَدْ مَعَهُمْ. Ya Rasulullah, you do not walk with them. If they take something that is halal and they consider it haram, you don't do this. Okay, what is the lesson to learn from this for you and I? In our faith, this happens quite often, where you end up in a situation, both of these happen. You end up situations where people take something haram and consider it halal. That's one thing. But even in more religious circles, you will find the second happening more often. Meaning something that's halal, people will take it and speak of it as if it's forbidden and, go about it in such a way that if you were to touch this, it's as if you've created or committed the greatest of sins. And the problem with this is over time, you end up adding red tape and red tape and red tape, more and more red tape to your faith. And you end up with this faith that is so extremely restrictive, it's more restrictive than the faith was actually supposed to be. So to give you one example of this, one of these issues that cultural elements have to always play a role in is, of course, the marriage of a Sayyid and a Non-Sayyid. Something that is obviously allowed in our school of thought. There's no problem with it. But you find cultural elements have come into the picture and have made it such that in some families this is considered almost to be forbidden, right? Of course, it's okay for someone to have preferences and say, I prefer to marry from this family or that family. That's completely fine. But to speak of something as if it's forbidden, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not declared it forbidden, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a problem with this. The same way He has a problem when we take something haram and declare it halal. This is a very important principle to keep in mind. If we want to keep our children on the right path, then we have to declare those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made allowed. We have to declare them halal. Otherwise, we are going to become more Catholic than the Pope, as we say, more restrictive than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala definitely has a problem with that.